Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started.
It's so easy to get excited about what drones can do, right? The amazing footage, the complex jobs they tackle.
Absolutely. The capabilities are just incredible.
But let's be real for a second. Underneath all that cool tech, there's something fundamental we just can't skip. Maintenance. Proper, consistent maintenance.
You said it. Because when things go wrong with these RPAS remotely piloted aircraft systems, the fallout can be serious.
Yeah, you think about that drone hitting a plane near Toronto, or that inspection drone fire out in Alberta. Wow. Those stories are a real wake-up call. Skimping on checks is a huge gamble.
A gamble you really don't want to take, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. RPAS, maintenance and safety. You've given us a great pile of resources here, the official regs, the CARs, detailed maintenance docs, even accident reports and best practices.
Quite a stack.
It is. And our mission today is to pull out the crucial bits for you, the listener. We want to cut through the noise and focus on what keeps drone operations safe, legal, and ultimately successful.
Exactly. We've got the rule book, the practical how-tos, and some sobering tales of what happens when maintenance slips. The goal is pretty simple. Help you understand your responsibilities and the key steps that prevent disasters and, frankly, regulatory headaches.
We're aiming for those moments where it just clicks, those aha moments.
Right. So with all this info, where should we start? It feels like a lot.
I think the best place is the foundation, the legal side, the Canadian aviation regulations, the CARs. They set out some really clear lines.
Okay, the rules first. Makes sense.
Let's start with CRR 901.34. It's pretty straightforward. No pilot can operate or let someone else operate an RPAS unless it's serviceable.
Serviceable. Okay, what does that really mean? Just that it powers on?
Not quite. It's much broader. Serviceable covers the whole system, the physical drone, the software, the sensors, everything. It all has to be in proper working order.
Got it. So it's the complete package deal. And this ties into CRR 901.47, right? That one really hammers it home.
It does.
Yes.
901.47 makes it absolutely clear. Flying an unserviceable RPAS isn't just risky, it's illegal.
And the consequences aren't trivial. We're talking potentially big fines, maybe losing your certificate.
Or even criminal charges in serious situations. So yeah, ignoring that serviceable requirement, it's not just bending a rule, it can have massive repercussions, financially and for your ability to operate at all.
No shortcuts there.
None. If there's an issue affecting safety, it stays on the ground, period. And building on that, CRR 901.48 brings in another critical piece, logging.
Ah, the paperwork.
Well, yeah, but it's essential. You must log all maintenance performed on your RPAS and keep those records for at least 24 months.
All maintenance, like even minor stuff.
Yep. Swapping a battery, updating firmware, reattaching a payload. It all needs to be logged. Think of it as the drone's permanent health record.
2 years is quite a while. And our sources mention this applies even if you sell the drone or retire it, right?
Exactly. That history stays with the operator. It's about traceability and accountability.
And it's not just the owner's job to track this. CR 901.27 puts the onus squarely on the pilot.
That's right. Before every single flight, the pilot in command has to ensure the RPAS is ready and meets all the airworthiness requirements.
So the pilot is the final gatekeeper before launch.
Precisely. Which connects directly to CRR 901.11, the general rule against reckless or negligent operation.
How so?
Well, think about it. Skipping pre-flight checks, ignoring visible damage, that could easily be seen as negligence if something goes wrong. It puts safety at risk. There's a clear link.
Okay, that makes sense. And these aren't just arbitrary rules pulled out of thin air. They're part of the knowledge requirements in TP 15263 for getting your pilot certificate.
Correct. It all ties together. Knowing your maintenance duties and keeping good records isn't just bureaucracy. It's fundamental to being a safe, responsible pilot.
Okay, so we've got the legal baseline. But what does serviceable look like in practice? What are the actual maintenance tasks we need to be doing?
Right, let's get into the practical side. Beyond the regulations, responsible operation means following specific maintenance practices. Rule number 1, Follow the manufacturer's instructions.
That seems obvious, but is it legally required?
It is. CIR 901.27 makes those manufacturer instructions mandatory. You also need detailed logs for the RPAS itself, its components, and every single battery.
Logbooks for everything.
Okay. Testing flight critical systems is obviously key, and a big one. Software and firmware updates. Only use trusted sources, and you must log the version numbers you install.
That software logging is important. Easy to forget. So, tracking the health and history of all the bits and pieces, let's zoom in on batteries. They seem to pop up in incident reports quite a bit. What's crucial for battery care?
Batteries are absolutely vital, and yeah, they need careful handling. Regular checks are a must. Look for any physical damage, swelling, punctures, dents. Check the terminals for corrosion. Feel for excess heat after use.
Okay, visual and physical checks. What else?
You need to track their usage, the number of charge cycles. Watch for any drop in capacity, how long they're lasting compared to new. Also, check for voltage imbalance between the cells if your system allows.
And how you handle and store them matters too.
Hugely. For storage longer than a few days, aim for about 40 to 60% charge. Never, ever charge a battery when it's warm right after a flight. Let it cool down first.
Good tip.
And always use fire-resistant LiPo bags or containers when charging, transporting, or storing them. That Alberta fire report traced back to an overcharged, swelling battery. It's a real risk.
Those fireproof bags really underscore the danger. What are some best practices for battery management?
Give each battery a unique ID number. It makes tracking their individual history so much easier.
Smart.
Testing internal resistance, or IR, periodically gives a much better picture of health than just voltage. And a good rule, retire batteries when their capacity drops below about 80% of what they were originally.
Below 80%, okay.
And here's a slightly scary fact from one source. A damaged or swollen LiPo can ignite spontaneously, sometimes up to 30 minutes after the flight is over.
Wow, okay. Definitely handle with care. Let's move to propulsion, the motors, and props. What needs attention there?
Motors need regular checks. Listen and feel for unusual vibrations. Check if they're getting too hot. Make sure the mounting screws are tight. Keep the cooling vents clear of dust and debris.
And the propellers. They seem fragile.
They are critical. Inspect them very carefully before every flight. Look for any nicks, chips, cracks, or signs of delamination where the layers start separating.
When should you replace them?
Manufacturer guidelines are key, but a general rule is maybe every 100 to 200 flights, or instantly if you see any damage, no matter how small. And don't forget cleaning and lubricating connections to the ESCs if the manual says to.
Right. I remember that story about a tiny, cheap O-ring failure causing a massive drone crash. Tiny parts, titanic consequences, as one source put it.
Exactly. Small details matter immensely.
Okay, what about the drone's navigation system, the compass and the IMU? How do we maintain those?
Compass and IMU need regular attention. Calibration is the big thing. You'll often need to recalibrate after a firmware update if you've transported the drone a long distance, or if you notice GPS acting weirdly, or the drone seems unstable in flight, like drifting or yawing unexpectedly.
So watch for performance issues.
Yes, and check your flight logs too. Look for sensor errors, disagreements between sensors, high vibration readings, understand what calibration errors mean, and know how to do it manually if needed. And log it if your calibration values differ from the factory defaults.
That incident report from BC about the flyaway after transport near magnetic tools really drives that home.
It does, and that's a key warning. Never calibrate near large metal objects, power lines, vehicles, even shipping containers. They can throw off the magnetic compass completely.
Good practical advice. What about the drone's body itself, the airframe?
Structural integrity is crucial, obviously. Do thorough visual inspections. Look for cracks, especially around motor mounts and landing gear. Check for any warping, loose screws, signs of water ingress or corrosion. Even UV damage from the sun can weaken plastic over time.
And transport matters here too.
Definitely. Use a good case. Proper foam padding or a rigid structure prevents stress cracks and damage from vibrations while traveling. Protect your gear.
Makes sense. Protect the investment. Now, many drones carry payloads, cameras, sensors, LiDAR. What about maintaining those systems?
Payload maintenance is key for getting good data. Keep lenses clean. Ensure gimbals are properly balanced, aligned, and securely mounted. If you're using thermal or IR cameras, regular calibration is often required for accurate readings.
And log everything related to the payload.
Yes. Log payload swaps, any software updates for the payload itself, and note any anomalies in operation. Especially critical if you need precise measurements, like with thermal cameras, log target specs and any temperature deviations you observe. That Saskatchewan incident with the dirty LiDAR sensor messing up data, perfect example.
So maintenance isn't just about flight safety. It's about mission success and data quality too.
Exactly. What about the link between the drone and the controller? The data link and ground control station, GCS.
Good point. What needs checking there?
First, always verify the firmware versions match on the drone and the controller. Mismatched versions can cause chaos.
Okay.
If you're flying in potentially congested RF environments, doing a quick radio frequency sweep can be smart. And antenna placement. Remember the pancake analogy for horizontal polarization, not a flashlight pointing straight up, helps maintain a solid link, especially at altitude.
Right. Optimize that signal path. What are critical failures to avoid here?
Taking off without setting or updating your home point is a big one. If you lose the link, you want it coming back to the right place. And obviously, losing the link without having verified that your fail-safe procedures like return to home, RTH, are set up correctly and actually work.
That RTH setting is crucial. Okay, speaking of fail-safes, what maintenance and checks do they need? They're the safety net.
They absolutely are, and you must treat them seriously. There should be a checklist process before flight. Test the manual RTH command. Test any flight termination switch. Check your geofence settings.
And verify the automatic behaviors.
Critically important. You need to know exactly what the drone will do if it loses signal. Is the RTH altitude set high enough to clear obstacles? What battery level triggers the smart RTH? And the most important part, test these functions. Actually trigger them during a dedicated post-maintenance test flight before the drone goes back into operational use.
A specific test flight just for fail-safes after maintenance. That seems vital.
It really is. Catch problems in a controlled environment.
We've mentioned logging a lot. Can we quickly recap the absolute essentials that must be in that logbook?
Sure. Minimum requirements, RPAS model and serial number, detailed record of all maintenance state, what was done, parts replaced, all firmware software updates with version numbers,
Okay.
battery life cycle tracking charge cycles, health notes, all calibrations performed compass, IMU, gimbal, etc., and any notes after an incident or period of non-use.
And keep it for 2 years.
24 months minimum. And back it up. Cloud storage plus an offline copy is wise. Use unique IDs for each drone to keep it organized. Remember that Ontario provider who got suspended. Inadequate logs were a major factor.
So the logs are your proof of due diligence, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And that post-maintenance test flight, what should it specifically cover?
A good test flight includes a stable hover check, verified GPS lock quality, check compass and IMU stability watch for drift during basic maneuvers like yaw and roll. And as we just said, actively test the fail-safe triggers, initiate RTH, simulate signal loss if possible and safe.
Where should you do this test?
Best practice is close to your base, low altitude, clear area with an emergency landing spot picked out, just in case. That test flight that saved the mission story really showed the value of this step.
Okay, we've covered a lot of do's. What about the don'ts? The absolute stop, do not fly red flags.
Right, the bonus red flag checklist from the sources is a good summary. Ground the drone immediately. If you see any nicks or cracks on propellers, they can fail catastrophically. If there's an unfamiliar or unverified firmware update pushed to your system, don't install it and fly until you know it's safe and compatible.
Risky?
A visibly swollen battery, huge fire risk, plus potential power failure. Ground it, don't charge it, handle it carefully.
Okay.
A loose motor or motor mount that causes instability and vibration, don't fly. Compass errors or misalignment. You risk flyaways or loss of control. Needs calibration or repair.
And the last one.
Missing flight logs from the previous mission. That's a compliance issue and could indicate data problems. Ground the drone until it's sorted out.
Those are clear no-go situations. Now, for operators who want to aim higher than just the minimums, what are some of those elite best practices?
Yeah, for those really pushing for excellence, documenting battery health and more detailed tracking cycles, degradation trends, internal resistance over time, that's a big one.
Going beyond just charge level.
Exactly. Creating your own tailored RPAS maintenance manual, MPM, specific to your gear and operations. Using version-controlled logs with timestamps and signatures, great for accountability and audits.
More robust record keeping.
Performing and logging functional ground tests after any maintenance, not just flight tests. Preloading and testing emergency procedures and manual overrides regularly. Having solid backup routines for logs and configurations.
Seems comprehensive.
Even logging human factors notes on pilot fatigue, tricky decisions made can help identify operational risks. Tracking calibration dates for all critical gear, having a formal post-maintenance validation checklist. Some even use a readiness scorecard for a quick fleet status check.
Those practices really show a deep commitment to safety and process. It's about building in resilience. Let's just quickly circle back to the regulations one last time. Key reminders.
Absolutely. Remember, the pilot in command is always ultimately responsible for airworthiness, even if someone else did the wrenching.
Pilot responsibility is paramount.
That 24-month record retention applies even after you stop using a specific drone. Software updates are maintenance and must be logged. Manufacturer instructions are legally binding, not just suggestions. You must record the RPAS serial number in logs. Post-incident checks are mandatory no matter how minor it seems. And even routine preventative maintenance needs to be logged.
Those seem like easy places to slip up if you're not careful. Okay, finally, a brief mention of quality assurance ACQUA001 came up. What's the takeaway there?
Right. While that AC might be more aimed at larger operations or those needing a pre-validated declaration, the principles of a quality assurance program, a QAP, are valuable for everyone.
How so?
It's about being proactive, not reactive, preventing any defects, continuous improvement. It means having documented procedures, management commitment to quality, regular self-audits, and a process for fixing issues you find. Adopting that mindset builds a stronger safety culture beyond just ticking regulatory boxes.
A proactive safety culture. That sums it up well. Okay, so wrapping this up for you, our listener. The big themes today seem pretty clear. Thorough pre-flight checks. Non-negotiable every single time. Detailed, accurate records. That's your legal requirement and your best defense. And understanding and following both the regulations and the manufacturer's guidelines is just fundamental. We've heard how small oversights can have massive consequences. A proactive, systematic approach to maintenance really is the mark of a responsible, professional, maybe even elite RPAS operator.
Well said. And here's something to think about. If your maintenance logs were suddenly needed for a Transport Canada audit, or maybe even in court, what story would they tell? Would they show a meticulous safety-first operator?
That's a powerful question.
And maybe think, what's one thing, even a small thing, you can change or implement in your procedures right now based on what we've talked about today?
We have definitely covered a lot of ground. We really hope you'll revisit your source materials with some of these insights fresh in your mind.
Please do. And if you have more questions or specific scenarios come up, dig deeper into those regulations and best practices.
Ultimately, it's your commitment to doing things right to safety and proper maintenance that ensures RPAS to continue to be used responsibly and successfully. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.